Hello, my name is Brett Stalk, and welcome to the Choices Podcast Live uh, podcast that we're doing tonight based on choices in your personal, professional, and relationship part of your lives. We're excited to bring you this live podcast tonight. Uh, we have people on Denny's on vacation. He usually joins us at the round table. You're welcome to send any question that you like to us during the live broadcast at Choices Podcast Official Facebook group. That's fun when people kick in. Last time we had a dear friend of ours asking questions, and it worked out real well. But we have started a podcast on choices, and we just finished an episode, a series on World Gone Crazy. And the only reason we finished it because we were so exhausted about talking how the world has gone crazy in all phases of our life. Uh, and it started with power and money is the root of all evil, starting in Washington, D.C. And it's still going on. If you haven't noticed, both sides are trying to fight for control, and both sides have lost their mind. They really don't care about us down here in the great state of Texas or wherever you're listening to us. Anyways, my co-host is Carcass John. He'll be joining us. And Denny's always here, but he's in California tonight. He's on vacation, much deserved. But tonight's episode is going to be on love one another. And I'm excited to start talking about loving one another because I'm tired of talking about the negativity of world gone crazy. And we always like to start the show with reading lyrics from a song. And Carcass John usually comes up with a great group somewhere locally, somewhere left, somewhere right. But tonight's reading, I talked to him earlier, is by the Beatles. All You Need Is Love. The lyrics go like this: love, 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 love. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. Love. It's easy. Nothing you can make that can't be made. Love. No one you can save that can't be saved. Love. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be in time. Love. It's easy. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love is all you need. And it continues saying love about 300 times during that lyrics. And I love that song. And the reason I love the Beatles so much is I have two girls, and the oldest is Alex, and the youngest is Dylan. And I always thought that I would have a boy in there somewhere. And as my friends all said, it's God's will for me not to have a boy because I'd have been too hard on him. And they're probably right. But, anyways, I had to figure out something common with my girls. And so with Alex, the common thread that we have in our life is collecting albums. She's a huge Beatle collector. And Carcass John has done a great job teaching her how to collect and be a Beatle historian. She's very, very smart. And she researches the Beatles. And she has Japanese label albums. She has different labels all over the world. She has unpublished records from the Beatles. But I love that song, All You Need Is Love. And then with Dylan, what we have in common is Formula One. She knows everything about Formula One. She knows about each race, where they are, who the Lando's her driver, and it's crazy because when we go to the track, my friends who run the McLaren group are always asking Alex what's going on the Formula One race, and she can tell them every time. So that's really, really, really cool. Uh, and it's fun for both of us to go to the track, sleep in our RV, and just have a good time. But the reason we picked tonight, love one another, is interesting. Um, because I think it's always goofy when a guy says, "Hey, we got to love one another." And I think it's really cool if we slow it down and say, what does that mean? All right. Denny was bringing up the they principle, which is you got to surround yourself with the proper they. That is, people that are tough, honest, people that are encouraging, and people that are God yielding. And I truly believe that. And Denny and Carcass and I are all three like brothers. And Denny and I have known each other since 1972. But the really cool thing that he also included was the part of they, and to be healthy, you have to get outdoors in some capacity where you can free your mind and really enjoy the nature as God intended you to enjoy it. And so I'm going to be talking tonight. I did that the last 4 days. I went to Montana fly fishing and had a wonderful time. It was all the guys at there's Carcass John, all the guys at Meadows uh, Lodge in Montana took good care of us. So I was practicing some different principles, and I want to talk about those tonight. And one of them was uh, slow it down long enough that when I didn't know anybody in that lodge and all the guests. And one of the guys, I hope he's listening tonight, his name is Harper. Harper was a cool dude. Harper uh, is from Oklahoma, and he's of Indian descent, and I really enjoyed getting to meet him. Uh, he was like really, really, really cool guy. And so I was practicing some of this love one another by uh, slowing it down to get to know him. He was really a funny guy and asking him questions about himself, like, where are you? I mean, where are you from? What do you do? How many kids you have? Why are you such a fun guy? What brought you here to go fishing? And I think that for us to love one another, you've got to slow it down and help, try to figure the other person out. And that's exactly what it says in the Dale Carnegie book, second best book ever written besides the Bible, called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And part two of his book, he talks about 6 ways to make people like you uh, in his book. And I want to talk about those tonight. He talks about the 6 principles. Principle 1, become genuinely interested in other people. You become interested in other people rather than trying to get people interested in you will gain you more friends. That sentence right there says more than you can imagine. Because really, when you get down to it, people don't care about you. They care about themselves. They want to hear about themselves and they want to tell you about themselves. So the more you ask them about themselves, the more they're going to like you. Uh, principle 2 of 6 ways to make people like you is to smile. Have a good first impression. Expression on one's face is more important than the clothes one wears. A smile means I like you. An insincere grin does not equal a heartwarming smile. A smile changes the atmosphere. You know, when somebody walks up to you, and especially a young child or a young boy, grabs my hand, shakes my hand, looks at me in the eye, and says, "Hey, my name is Joe Smith." I'm like, "Dude, you've got me." And they're smiling, they're enthusiastic, they're intoxicating. Uh, just it lifts. It's a first impression when you're smiling. It's intoxicating. The third principle is a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Isn't that the truth? That's the reason sometimes it's funny because if you introduce yourself, you're more worried about who you say your name than being introduced with the other person's name. Uh, when you practice this, you'll start remembering other people's names a lot easier. Uh, it's hard to keep that in track. That the person's complete name. I used to do that with the jury selection. I could remember 52 people's names in 3 minutes, and I did it by comparing their name to something that they look at or something that they're wearing, um, and that helps me, but that's so true. I hate it when I get introduced to somebody and then 15 seconds later, I'm like, "Sanka, what was that guy's name?" That is so rude of me. I should, be more conscious. Principle 4 is be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. People want interested listeners. If one says little to nothing and listen intently to the other person, one will become a good conversationalist. I mean, that's the truth. If you think about it, somebody that really communicates with you or speaks with you, you like it when they're asking about you and what's going on in your life. And you can tell when they're listening because they look at you in the eye and they shake their head or up or down. But listening is an art, and it's something that you have to exercise. It's like a muscle. Listening, you have to really take time to be a good listener and to really pay attention and not let your mind wander while you're listening to that person, or don't be like uh, sidetracked while you're listening to another person. People are usually concerned with what they're about to say next, that they do not pay attention to the current speaker. Isn't that the truth? Listen with your mind and attentively consider what you have to say. Listening to people due to genuine interest is the highest compliment one could give. Isn't that the truth? People want, "How you doing, Carcass? You in there?"
I'm in here. Can you hear me?
"Oh, yeah, you're awesome, dude."
All right. Check, check. Microphone check.
"Yeah, you in, babe?"
Frustrating.
"That's okay. We got it. I'm gonna
Don't
kick
mean
you
to
in here."
interrupt. I was thinking about what I was going to say, but I was still listening to you.
"Oh, that's good, Carcass." Carcass. That's the truth, though, isn't it?
No, it is the truth.
I wonder what I could ask this person next instead of listening to them, you know?
I'd rather hear their answer and expound on what they
Yeah. That's the art of direct examination. Who, what, when, where, why questions. You're good at that, Carcass. One could shut this is good, Carcass. I'm reading
said.
from uh, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm on principle 4, be a good listener, encourage others to talk about themselves. One could shut people off by talking about oneself, interrupt, not ask questions, and not encourage the person to talk. You should encourage the person to talk. You know what I mean? I don't know if that works so carcass with somebody that really talks a lot.
There ought to be a way that we can have them tap the brakes and
Carcass,
not say too much.
I know. It's when you sit there saying to yourself, oh my Lord, when is this person going to stop? I think it works better. Your listening skills work with somebody who's you're having to pull it out of a little bit, you know?
You know, I used to run into this problem with my baseball kids. You know, you can't teach hustle. They either got it or they don't. And some it's easier to throttle it back a little bit. Sometimes you just have to draw it out of them. But I don't know. I find that kind of an interesting challenge when you're speaking with somebody and they're answering in one word answers and you want them to expand a little on their opinion or expound on a certain subject. And so it's a little bit of a challenge, but to your point, sometimes what is a subtle or maybe not so subtle way to tell them to tap the brakes or just stomp on the brakes and just next question?
Besides putting your hands over your ears.
Yeah, I guess that's not so subtle. Well, how would you do that in court? I mean, if someone obviously you ask them a question in court and you want them to answer succinctly, but is there ever an occasion where you want them to expand?
No, you
No?
never want them to expand. You want
Oh,
them to answer the question and shut up.
yeah.
And you tell
Okay.
them that when you would shut them, answer the question and shut up. Hear me say, shut up. And so if they go, if it's real important witness and you're in trial and you got them up on the stand and they go off and never land, I've I've had to object to being non-responsive to my own witness. Your Honor, I'm going to object to being non-responsive to that question. Can you ask the witness and instruct the witness just answer the question? And you do that very nicely. It's really an art. But then they get the message to shut up, you know.
Interesting.
But I was telling our listeners that I went fishing in Montana and I was really trying to clear my head. And yeah, I really did clear my head. I'm 66. I needed to reflect on where I am at my life and where am I going and do I want to retire? I came up very shortly and very quickly. I don't want to retire. But I cleared my head and I really had some great conversations with the guests in this lodge that were really cool people. And then we all talked about how the people in politics are ruining the American environment, you know? So how do we make an impact? And we all came to a common ground that the way we do it is we learn to love one another, to care about one another, to bring humility down here, you know, be humble, help help our brothers, give to charity. Uh, this one guy that was in the lodge, my Indian friend from Oklahoma, he was talking to me about when he was working in India, his mother discovered or created the uh, battery for uh, uh, the heart deal. And she's really a neat lady. But when they were over there working in India, they all had to give 30% of their monies back to the company so the company could build restrooms for the people that were living there in India because the women were all having to share a restroom. Like 300 women were sharing one bathroom. And he and his family and the employees all worked together and uh, built 7,000 bathrooms for women. It kept them from getting raped. It kept them from walking across a road and getting catcalled. But doing stuff like that is really, really cool, and it's impactful, helping mankind. Um, that's sort of where I'm at in my life. I want to help people. I really do. I want to help my church uh, and do cool stuff. But let's get back to uh, the 6 principles of making people like you. We're on number 5. Number 4 was listening. Principle number 5 is talk in terms of the other person's interest. Hmm. Research what people like. Make yourself agreeable and talk about the things people are interested in. Talk about their passions and what they're interested in. Don't be talking about a bunch of negative stuff that this person is already mentioned to you. Like if it's a person been divorced, don't talk about their divorce. Talk about their accomplishments. Where's your passion been directed? Oh, that's so cool. And, what are you doing now? And stuff like that. Principle 6 is make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. That's all these 6 ways. You can see the way Dale Carnegie worked. And that book was written so long ago and changed so many times, but it's still so awesome. How to make the other person feel important. Number 1, comment about something you truly admired about the other person. I did that yesterday. I did that. This lady in the parking garage stepped out of her car and she uh, was very professional. She was dressed professional and she carried herself with a swagger. And I told her, I said, "Look at you. You're dressed all nice and you're ready to attack the day." And she was so grateful that I said that. Uh, Number 2, don't be selfish. Number 3, when one is a little happy, pass on a bit of honest appreciation. Number 4, do something for someone without expecting anything in return. One of the people I have that works for me does a real good job at that. Doing something, pay it forward. That's a big thing nowadays. You know, um, put money in the boot, the fireman's boot. But I like it was when you do something and you surprise somebody and you don't expect anything in return. I think that's cool. People want approval of others they meet and be recognized of their true worth. And, you know, I don't care how they look, how they walk, how they dress. Uh, you can make them feel special. Whatever it is you need to do to make that person feel special, exercise that muscle. Do it. Remember, cheap, insincere flattery does not equal sincere appreciation. That is so true. Uh, I hate someone that just uh, throws out a cheap compliment and, they no more meant it than a man in the moon. They might as well take a glass of water and throw it in your face. This is good. Phrases to Remember by Dale Carnegie. I'm sorry to trouble you. That's a good one. Would you be so kind as to? That's a good one. Won't you please? Would you mind? Thank you. That's always good. I was thinking when I was reflecting the last 4 days on differences I can make in people's relationships around me at the workplace, and I need to be more positive and less critical. Uh, Practicing law is hard. I mean, I know a lot of people, "Oh, you got it so easy." No, practicing law is hard. I predict only 20% of my law school class from Texas Tech is still practicing law that I went to school with. And it can get on you, man, because the the people you talk to all day long are people with problems, and you're trying to help them. But if you don't take enough vacation, if you don't go fishing, you don't get out there, you're going to get a negative attitude whether you like it or not. So taking a break, getting out with nature, looking at the eagle, looking at a moose, freshen your mind. There's plenty of room in your mind. Just, make room for it. Uh, Number 8 of making the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Number 8 is express your admiration. Most, if not all, people you meet will feel superior in some way towards you. That's all right by me. I can take second all day long because I know I've got enough confidence and I'm narcissistic enough to put myself number 1 if I need to. People who are oh, here I am. People who are egotistic usually are the least deserving to feel achievement. That's me. Do not take people for granted. That's true. Don't take people for granted. That is the 6 principles of how to make people like you. And I think Dale Carnegie, he was one of the most successful motivators that ever lived. I mean, the Dale Carnegie course, he had a school, you know, this is what he did for a living, but his book brings so much value in different tools and ways to create uh, positive vibes around you in your life. And I go to it all the time. I have a summary of the book. I make every intern read the book and type a summary so I know that they read it because I know if they live those principles that they'll be successful at whatever they do. And that's what I want for them. So, all we need is love. Love can be a form of communication to our neighbors, just being nice to people, being kind to people. That's what my baby daughter always tells me about that Styles kid. He's all about kindness. I go, "What are you talking about?" His music's about kindness, being kind. That goes a long way. It's the golden rule. Uh, Treat others how you want to be treated. And I think these telephones have come a long way to advancing our communication and technology, but they've also gone a long way in ruining our communication. People don't talk from their heart anymore. They talk from their head because that's them using the phone. And they don't have to feel by using the phone. They don't have to feel sadness. They don't have to feel guilt. They don't have to feel anger. They don't have to feel fear. They don't have to feel. I think if we start putting the phone down and get in touch with our feelings again and spending some time every morning meditating, breathing exercises, breathing the good in, the bad out, it's just taking a breath to go, what am I going to do today? And what 3 things can I do to help another person without expecting anything in return? What can I do? And I think that's a good place to start. Being kind with one another, being love is a verb. Love is uh, an action. It's not a noun. It's not sitting there. It's doing. And and it's not corny for men to say and tell their wives that they love them. And I tell my girls, uh, I tell them every day. I try to tell them. I try to break the chain on the way I grew up, and I try to tell my kids all the time how much I love them and respect them, and I want good for them, and support them in any way that I need to support them. But also, they're at 18, so their life is their own, and their choices are their own. And I've done as much as I could building a good Christian base in your life. You've got the cross to look to on top of the chapel. Something happens to me, you'll be fine. But in the meantime, you're going to be nice to people. You know, you're going to be nice to your friends and you're going to give back. And y'all, the listeners who do know my wife, Senka, know that she is the number one caretaker and giver known to mankind. She and her friends take care of all the dogs that need help. Oh my gosh, if I get one more dog over here, they take without expecting anything in return. Uh, they do what they can. If one of the ladies is in a health issue, they all jump in. They all take care of them. They all, put a food calendar together. Uh, they do what they need to do to help their friend out, and I really like that, and I watch it. But it's like I told this guy over the weekend. I told him, I said, "Listen, my wife is Greek, dude. They teach you more about family than you could ever imagine." And he looked at me and goes, "Do what?" I said, "Listen, my father-in-law had a Sunday dinner. He was written up in a Sunday paper in Virginia Beach for his Sunday dinners. The whole family. You came to Papu's house on Sunday to eat a steak dinner. He had, I don't care if it was raining, if it was sleeting, you're coming to Sunday dinner. You're going to sit down around the table. Yaya's going to be on one end, Papu's going to be at the other, and the youngest kid will be next to Papu. And you're going to eat as a family. And it's just amazing the Greek culture, how much it's taught me about being a family and loving your family. And it starts there. Love one another. It starts with loving your family and taking care of your family, no matter what. Uh, you got to love each other. You got to take care of each other. You have to do it unconditionally. And I enjoyed Yaya and Papu. Um, I didn't know my grandparents, so I wanted my kids to know theirs. And I made a commitment to Senka that whenever your mom and dad want to come to Dallas, it's done. So they spent a lot of time with us, and we traveled together. We did stuff together, and they do my kids. And that was important to me. But to see the impact it's had on them after both Yaya and Papu have passed, uh, the love that they still have for Yaya and Papu and my mom and dad, and they learned a lot. They learned about family, and they learned to love each other. And Alex just got back from Virginia Beach, and all of her cousins and everybody stayed in our house there at Virginia Beach. Every room was full, and I could promise you that made Sank and I extremely happy to know that was going on. So, anyways, that's where we're starting. We're going to get back on positive things in this show, on how to make a difference and loving one another and making a difference in people's lives that are hurting, like at the homeless shelter. Take some clothes by the homeless shelter, the blankets, coats, do something little that you're not used to doing. Um, and that's cool. Do something little that makes a difference in somebody else's life and that's less fortunate than you and don't expect anything in return. And it will fill your heart with joy. You got that, Carcass?
I got that. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You know what fills my heart full of joy? When my computer actually works. So a little
Oh, that's
tidbit to all the listeners out there, do not leave your browser open over a long weekend because somehow Microsoft 10 Pro got downloaded to my computer and it doesn't like it at all. So having a few technical difficulties, but I'm learning a lot about patience.
there you go, Carcass.
So
Carcass, you're awesome too. You got a lot of love in your heart. Um, we what else you want to say, Carcass, before we end this show?
well, speaking of love, I saw something over the holidays. My sister is a sponsor, one of the directors of this event that happens out where she lives, where they unfurl a flag the size of a football field between two mountains. It's pretty impressive, and they actually honored my father and two other veterans, one from Korea, one from World War II. My father having served in Vietnam, and my father uh, pointed my mother out in the crowd when they were giving a little vignette about him and said, "That's the real hero over there." She raised 5 children pretty much on her own while I was out fighting and doing the war thing. And I thought that was really impressive, only from the fact that it just shows how much that he really loves his wife. And so he set a fine example. And it wasn't, he didn't say a whole lot, kind of like you were saying earlier. How do you get people to, sometimes in TV they do this where they want you to stretch it out, but they do this when they want you to end it. And my dad's always doing that. He's a man of few words, but boy, they sure are poignant and they sure are meaningful. So um, I know the episode was Love One Another. I have lots of hot sports opinions about that. And it starts with learning to love yourself, obviously, and then not judging yourself or others. I think that has a lot to do with I think you need to learn to appreciate. I think I hear all the time where people say, "Well, I love this person, but I just don't like them," and I think it's hard to be juxtaposed like that and really show them the kindness that they're due. But anyway,
If you add gratitude on top of what you just said, you have the full ball of wax. And kindness, and if we're grateful, it all starts with gratitude. Being grateful for what we have, being
mhm.
grateful for our family, being grateful for friends. People can see gratitude, you know?
Well, and once again, it's your action. It's not your necessarily your words. And I think when we have the opportunity to show somebody our gratitude and show them, they'll understand how much we care for them and how much we love them.
Well, that's a great way to end the show. We're going to do it with one of our slogans today. Before I get to that, please, we're growing at a rapid rate, which is really cool for us. Please follow us or like us on Facebook, on Choices Podcast Official Group, and share our podcast with your friends. And we're going to get Denny back probably at the end of July. In the meantime, we got really cool guests getting lined up. We have some cool veteran guys, Navy SEAL guys that are going to come in. We have some of my cool clients are going to come in and do a podcast. And I don't even want to tell you who they are because they're really cool. Yeah, I want to make it a surprise. And we're going to learn about choices and we're going to keep our series open about love one another. Like I said, it's always goofy for men to talk about loving one another, but we're not going to be goofy on this show. We're going to talk about it. So we always like to end the show with a great slogan. And tonight's slogan is, if you want together honey, don't kick over the beehive.
Amen to that.
That's what we've been talking about this whole show, Carcass. It's really pay attention about the other person and you'll get the honey. All right, you guys have a great night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.